Welcome to the Past Life Regression radio show and Spirituality for Souls. I'm Jonathan Yorks, your host over the next 2 hours of this live call-in internet radio show that is based on my work that I do in my private practice as a past life regression and life between lives regression therapist and spiritual counselor. We are streaming live here at the Go Network every Wednesday from 7 to 9 p.m. You can catch us on Facebook Live, or if you want to, just for future reference, you can always link through my website at www.jonathanyorks.com or www.mysoulmyself.com. When you go to the opening page, scroll down, you'll see the links to the show if you want to watch it or listen to it as well. Probably the easiest way on a weekly basis if you want to listen to the show, because this is a radio show certainly, is you can dial in the number 641-552-8117, and that'll actually link you directly to the show. You can listen on your phone and listen on the go. Okay. So thank you very much for joining in this evening. The call-in number here is 857-366-5444. Please call in with questions. You are invited to call in with questions, absolutely, your comments. Anytime you want to share a story, I'm always interested in hearing, or anytime you want consultation. Today's show is all about the lessons of souls, and we're going to get into that in our next segment. So before we do that, I want to begin today's show by talking about a question that was brought to me by a client of mine. And the question was this: what is the purpose of your show? And that was a fantastic question. Because generally when I start this show, I start with, wanting to, do some recap from the prior week's show and unfinished business. And I realized the idea behind the beginning of this show, as I try to work with formatting it and understanding what I'm doing in this show, is that when I give a recap, I just don't want to give back to you what I just said the prior week. It doesn't serve any purpose. You can go watch the show or listen to it if you want to from there. No, I'm going to want to give you new insights that I find, my reflections further from the prior week, as I reflect on what I had the prior week's show. And we're going to weave that all into this segment in this moment. And the question, what is the purpose of this show? I just want to be very clear about the purpose. The purpose of this show is to help you see your life through your spiritual eyes, to help you understand it and process it through your spiritual mind as a soul. And as you do that, the purpose is that all the topics I bring in, everything that is a part of this program is meant to be a part of that realization, so that when you do wake up in the morning, when you do operate in your daily human life, that you are able to start to conceptualize your life through that lens of you being a soul, living this human lifetime. And as you do that, then you'll start to process it and understand it differently. And so today's topics, the lesson of souls, is going to feed into that. But last week's topic was about the spirituality of the soul. And that is a topic that has a lot of meaning for me. Because when I spoke of the spirituality of the soul, it always into the purpose of this program. The purpose of this program, like I said, is spiritually based as far as helping you understand and see through the spiritual entity that you are in the human life you are in. And in such, as I talk about it, as last week I mentioned in the spirituality of the soul understands something. We understand something as souls, that we are beings of life, and we express ourselves through 4 dimensions of self, because we have a selfhood to this experience. That's what we're growing through, and we're going to talk much more about that in relation to lessons and purpose in the next segment. And I talked about these 4 dimensions of self, and I'm just going to quickly go by it real quick. The idea of the dimension of the one self, the idea that this is a oneness. And what does that tell us? That tells us our relationship to each other, our relationship to the life around us, that nothing is oppositional and everything is participatory, that there is no one that is against you. They only conspire as we conspire with them. The next aspect of yourself is the divine self that I spoke of. And this is the self of intention, the self, of course, to grow your uniqueness, your unique individuated aspect of all life, to grow it into its most fullest expression, to its most matured awareness and self-realized state, And as you do that, you move through lifetimes. And as you move through lifetimes, you will learn life lessons through each lifetime, and you are focused on a life purpose that encapsulates life lessons. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. The next aspect of yourself I mentioned was the creator self. This is the energy consciousness of your reality. And there's nothing you can do. To deny such a reality is to deny what constitutes our being, what generates your existence. And as I speak to my physicist friends, and I hope to have him on here soon because he will become hopefully the physicist on call as we talk about these things like oneness. But the idea that creator self, like the idea of your cells to molecules, your molecules to atoms, your atoms to subatomic particles, all the way down to what generates your experience. And in doing that, we are in constant relationship to the energies of life. We are not separate from it. We are generated by it. And we can direct these energies, these quantum probability waves of energy, to bring them into our lives for the circumstances that we create in order to manifest the life that we seek to fulfill. So there is a creator self aspect. And then, of course, and the creator self lets you know of your capacity. So we have the one self lets you know your relationship. This divine self that lets you know your intention. The creator self that lets you know your capacity within this experience of being. And of course, the neural self, which lets you know your conditions that you're going through as well. And that's not, and then I spoke much about the neural self and how you can see the neural self in action. And I'm going to share a little story from a friend of mine who actually left a message last week and described exactly what I was talking about. See, the neural self is a survival self. It's the self that, as I talked about last week, is the aspect of you that is all about defensiveness. It's all about perceiving threat. It's all about surviving. And in that sense, the neural self, the brain that I just pointed to as I'm looking at the camera, the brain is a survival beast. And it speaks through negativism, and there's a delay between a neural coalescence of a thought or choice and your receptivity of it. And if you want more information about it, go to last week's show. But we'll be talking much more about this and hopefully getting some really fascinating people in to have a dialogue as we develop this program. So my friend who emailed me, who sent the message actually, and I spoke to this week, well, he was away. He's away on a business trip, and he has to travel. And he stopped into a place to eat. And sure enough, the food there just wasn't meeting his needs. He was feeling tired. He wasn't feeling, the food was really right and everything. And this particular friend is one who watches his weight. Not because it's a choice, it's because it's a health realization for him that he really needs to be conscious of such a thing. So as he's all disgruntled and frustrated, he sees the cake display and he goes, I don't care. I'm going to have a piece of cake. And he has that piece of cake. And sure enough, after he had that piece of cake, he felt terrible about himself. He wasn't happy. So last week in his message, he wrote, I had a chocolate cake. And after I ate it, and after it was gone, and I felt bad after it was gone. Now, at first I thought, oh, okay, he's being playful with me. But no, he was being genuine. The thing is, he didn't feel bad that the cake was gone. He felt bad that he ate it. And that is the neural experience of our being. It is going to channel us into the places that we don't want to go to. Then we choose what to do with those impulses. And that is the bottom line of all these dimensions of yourself that you're operating through. That the final realization of it all is that it all comes together based on the realization of choice. And your choice is what affects and what ripples and what creates. Your choice either helps evolve or, devolve, creates harmony or dissonance. It is all based on that realization. But how we choose, from which way how do we engage and construct within our minds the framework from which we make choice? When someone is activating us in such a way that we don't want to choose in a way that seems spiritual. And I get it, because I'm in the same journey as you are, and I play in the same experience. But what I've realized is, as long as I'm mindful, as long as I don't respond and react to the energies, I'm going to make more enlightened choices. Not all the time, but majority of the time. So in that way, I just wanted to offer what it is that we talked about last week. Quick, and what it is that the unfinished business of some of the stuff last week. One was, what is the purpose of your show? And once again, I want to emphasize it, that the purpose of the show and all the topics of the show is not to just talk about my work and my private practice as past life regression and life between lives therapist, as a spiritual counselor. Sure, of course I do. But there is so much more. I want to offer this, as you've heard over the last number of shows, because it's a perspective, it's a consideration of life that seems to point logically, evidentially, if that is even a word, that life seems to be going on, and this seems to be operating in this way. And these 4 dimensions of self that I talk about is basically also based on my understanding, because of my background in psychology and how I first entered into this field and how I started to conceptualize all this. So in regards to the spirituality of yourself as a soul, the purpose of this show, to see your life through your spiritual eyes, but also to be like a spiritual spa, to come in once a week. I don't care if you stick around for 5 minutes, for a half an hour, for the entire show. This show is meant to be a place for you to come to and remind yourself. Just remind yourself. Because for the people who are in this consideration, for the ones who construct their life or want to see through this paradigm, it's inescapable. And when we come to this moment, when we gather like this, so to speak, when you tune in, I hope that at least I'm getting through to that experience for you. And if I'm not, let me know. Because, again, my background's in academia, and because it is, I'm used to speaking in that way. And so please, like I said last week, raise your hand. Send me a Facebook message. Text me at 617-875-6686. That's a direct text to my phone number, to my phone. Or please call in at 857-366-5444 and ask your question. If you do Facebook or if you text, I'll answer it during the break. I'll take a look and I'll answer it after the break. So hopefully, as far as the beginning of this show, I've given you a little encapsulation and a reminder that last week's show isn't just meant to offer a really cool possibility. You know, one thing I've recognized and why I wanted to do this show as well, in today's world, in today's culture, it's just we don't have enough time to look at everything. We don't have enough time to gain the expertise to be able to talk intelligently about every topic out there. And we're all so busy trying to keep our lives from surviving and thriving that time is elusive. So what we do, we go to people who have studied these things, who have looked at them. And then we listen to their minds and we say, do I listen to that mind or do I not? And then we decide if we want to listen to that mind, if what we hear they're offering is worthy of consideration, well then we listen. This show is all about the spirituality of the soul. It's called the Past Life Regression Radio Show because it's the most pop culture kind of indicator of what the topics here will be about. But the bottom line is that yes, to me, this is all about you realizing, as I speak with you, not to your human self, but to your spiritual self, who is within your human experience. And so as far as moving forward now in this show, there is one other thing I think I want to bring forward. What is that? Oh, there was a comment, and I'm just going to bring it back, regards to just what we spoke about. There was a comment also from someone from last week that they were surprised. They're reading the book and they left a comment from last week's show that they're surprised that the soul and the body, that we match ourselves up. It is actually a chosen vehicle through which we experience and grow through. So we choose the mental, emotional, and physical characteristics. We choose the financial and relational, the cultural, the gender, the social dynamics of the culture and times we are born into. That is all intentional. Absolutely. Because within that intention, you're going to obtain your conditions. And within your conditions, you're going to have your challenges. And through your challenges, you will have to make your choices. And all they care about is how you choose. From which aspect of your being did you choose? Did you choose through the human organ, through the brain, through survival, through power and control, dominate and submit, divide and conquer, so to speak? Did you choose through divisionism? Or did you choose the enlightened mind of your being as a soul, recognizing the dynamics of self that we all operate through? And when you make that choice, how did you move forward from there? And how did your choices affect the others? So yes, absolutely. It is amazing. We do choose these bodies. And by the way, we don't always choose bodies that are, and I talked about this, by the way, in the Life Between Lives program. I think it's the third episode. We don't always choose bodies and brains that align well with us. I mean, again, I spoke of a client in that program who they choose an aggressive, they're an aggressive soul, having lived lives through aggression, and they choose a passive body, and now there's a dissonance. And through that dissonance, there's actually a psychological malady that takes place that comes from it. It's amazing how we choose the conditions in the ones we are being. And one of those choices we make are learning lessons. And I posted something on Facebook, something earlier in the week on my business Facebook page at Jonathan Yorks, MALMFTCHG. Just go on Facebook if you're there. Go there, and as you know, you're there watching. If you're listening, then this is where you can go to watch as well as receive posts. I posted about, and there was a thing I posted, the lessons in life will be repeated until learned. And I actually corrected that post. I corrected it because I apologized. Because what I wrote in that post actually wasn't what I was thinking when I was actually reading that particular quote. Because I was thinking of the show I'm doing this week, and I found a quote that spoke to me about the topic of the show, and I posted this quote, but the quote was misleading. Because we are under a misunderstanding. It is actually, from my understanding, a false impression. We don't repeat lessons. And I'm going to talk about that and demonstrate, at least through what I've come to see through my clients, and I'll be offering some client stories, at least small amounts of client stories, as well as the journey of what it is that we go through based on the dozen or so past life regressions that I did. And I can't believe how every lesson was different and how every lesson progressed towards this life purpose. Because what did I write just a few weeks ago about in my thank you post? That in life purpose, the purpose of your life is to grow your selfhood. You're working on an aspect of your selfhood, your self-expression. And what we do through our lessons is we take on attributes that we bring in through our lifetimes based on the lessons of each life. Because you know what? Whether you learn it in the lifetime or after the lifetime, good news, you learn life lessons. It doesn't, of course it matters if you do it in the body, because the idea, if you do it in the body, it accelerates the growth. It moves you at a more accelerated pace through your maturation when you do it in lifetimes. But when you leave the lifetime, you still process your life lesson, what you learned from the past life. And you don't bring it into your next life as your next life lesson. No, you bring it in as an attribute towards the lesson you are learning in the following life. And that attribute has to be worked on in order for the lesson of the following life to be fulfilled. And I'll talk about that in a little bit in the next segment of the program. So hopefully I didn't confuse you too much at the beginning of this. Again, the purpose of this show. The purpose of the show is, my spiritual friends, is to understand that we are spiritual beings of life, expressing ourselves in these human journeys. I know it sounds kind of foo-foo. I get that. I'm humid when I speak this way sometimes, but it's not lost on me that this, as more than any other possibility, seems to be what's taking place. That one day the vehicle you are in is not going to be functioning, and you are going to leave. And when you do, you will transition back to the home in which we all come from, this dimension of spiritual, we call this spiritual dimension because we don't have another word for it. And then we plan, and we process, and we play, and we relax in an environment that is infused atmospherically with peace, with acceptance, with love. It's like living in the mind of something in that way. And in that way, we then, after we process and plan and gain our strength and gather ourselves again, we move into the next lifetime. And again, through each life, we are learning a lesson. And each lesson is contributing to our life purpose. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit in the next segment. It's actually 7:20 at this time, Dimitri. So you know what? Let's take a little break at this moment, everybody. We're going to take a quick 5-minute break because the next segment's going to go much longer, and this way you'll have a chance to get what you have to get before the next segment. I just want to say though, if you have to break away at this moment and you cannot come back, I am working to get this on YouTube. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be editing out the commercials, and Dimitri knows this, and I'm going to be putting it on YouTube as well as on a podcast. So you can, on a podcast sites like on iTunes and such, so you can listen to the show as well without the commercials too. But if you want to, you can go and always see the recordings on Facebook, and you can always fast forward through the commercials to the next segment. As another thing, if you have any questions, anything that comes up in this program, or anything you want to talk about outside of this program, please feel free to contact me. Go to my website, and on my website, on the home page, click on home. You'll see there's a contact page. I also have a contact page as well. And please set up an initial consultation. It's complimentary. I am more than happy to talk about this work and anything that you're seeking as far as doing the work with me, be it the regression or the counseling. Happy to do it. I'm Jonathan Yorks. This is the Past Life Regression Radio Show and Spirituality for Souls. We'll see you in 5 minutes. Thank you for joining in this evening.
Are you in need of stickers, be it for personal or business use? Then you need to go to StickerU.com right now. That's StickerYOU.com. Sticker U is passionate about providing you and your business with the highest quality custom stickers, labels, decals, and iron-ons. They can even make you temporary tattoos. If you want to stick out from the competition, then you need Sticker U, as Sticker U provides the best platform in the world to create custom products that make you stick.
So who are the real original housewives? Well, Sarah, Esther, Mary, and Ruth. Proclaim this and other Bible references on a shirt at OneBodyOneSpirit.com. One Body, One Spirit is a Christian-themed clothing store for ladies and men that allows believers to express their faith, glorify God, and start conversations through something as simple as a t-shirt. Plus, a portion of every purchase is donated to charities. Their website is Spirit.com to view their clothing selections. OneBodyOneSpirit.com.
When I'm feeling sluggish, I'm not looking for the jittery feeling of coffee. I'm reaching for Neurosonic, the only energy drink I trust to keep me going. Neurosonic is just one of the great drinks in the neurofunctioning beverages line. When I'm stressing an interview, Neuro Bliss keeps me cool, calm, and collected. And when it's time to call it a night, I don't want sleeping pills and all the crazy after effects you hear about. I want Neuro Sleep to help me drift off to dreamland. Neuro drinks are surprisingly low calorie and full of the healthiest and most efficacious vitamins and minerals. Artificial flavors and colors don't work for them, and neither should they for you, so they don't allow them in their drinks. To find a store near you that carries Neuro, go to drinkneuro.com or visit amazon.com to order a 12-pack. Neuro, drink with a purpose.
If you're just hearing about Monk Therapeutic Air for the first time, it's a recyclable diffuser that promotes mood change and life-enhancing effects through our custom blends of essential oils in the ancient practice of aromatherapy. Monk is the simplest aromatherapy device in history. You don't have to know anything about essential oils. We do all that for you. Simply pick the way you want to feel, open your Monk, and breathe in as your Monk diffuses an eclectic blend of essential oils and wild plant extracts. Monk is available in 7 different blends, all of which are organic, natural, and free of nicotine, tobacco, or artificial chemicals. Visit monq.com to learn more.
Aren't you tired of your plain white walls? Do you ever wonder why you feel uninspired at the office or feel like your home lacks character? It's always the same boring walls over and over again. Well, it's time for a change. Visit walldecore3d.com and order wall panels that will turn your walls into beautiful and extravagant looking accent walls. The 3D wall panels give an extra dimension and complement just about any room. Their current selection includes plant fiber wall paneling, MDF wood wall panels, mosaic real wood paneling, and thin slate stone veneer. Remember, that's waldecore3d.com. Order now and add some depth to your life.
Has your computer seen better days? Is it always freezing and lagging? Are you constantly plagued with pop-ups and viruses? Are you not able to get any work done? You don't need a new computer, you need Phoenix Technology Support. With just one call to Phoenix Technology Support, you will never have to stress over the hassles of taking your computer to a repair shop again. Just leave your computer right where it is and let us come directly to you. Phoenix Technology Support has over 10 years of experience in the industry of customer support and IT solutions, and it's the best place for help with all of your home or business electronics. From gaming systems to tablet setups, smartphones to smart TVs, even business servers and emails. We will help set up or troubleshoot almost any technology in your home or office. So next time you think your technology is at the end of its life, have it rise from the ashes like a phoenix by calling Phoenix Technology Support at 617-658-3240. That's 617-658-3240, or go to www.phoenixtechboston.com.
Have you always wanted to make your own podcast? Or had dreams of becoming the next social media influencer? Don't let office space and equipment be what gets between you and your dreams. New studio space is now available through the Go Network. The Go Network is a multimedia broadcast company that currently hosts live radio shows and podcasts. With microphones to fit all guests, the ability to video record interviews, a stage for band performances, and an editing suite to put your audio and video content to the next level. The Go Network will provide assistance with producing, editing, sponsorship outreach, marketing, and more. You can create the podcast or web series you want with the lower price tag. Visit our studio location in Norwood or our audio suite in Canton. For more information, call us at 857-445-0424 or email us at info@gonet.com. That's info@geauxnet.com.
And Spirituality for Souls. I'm Jonathan Yorks, your host for this most incredible program about helping you see your life through your spiritual eyes and process and understand it through your spiritual mind as a soul. We stream live here every Wednesday from 7 to 9 p.m. at the Go Network. This is a call-in program, 857-366-5444. You are invited to call in. You can also text me at 617-875-6686 or message me on Facebook. So thank you for joining in for this next segment. This next segment is all about the lessons of the soul. And as we talk about this, I'm going to give some examples of what I mean when I talk about that lessons are attributes we gain through each lifetime, that we then bring through lifetimes in order to fulfill a life purpose. And we would think that life purpose is different, or, through lifetimes. And that is not the case. We may be in a giant cycle, involved in a giant life purpose growth moment. So when you think of life purpose again, think of it as the means of growing your selfhood. And you do it by learning life lessons. And each lesson provides for you an attribute, a condition, something within your psyche as a soul, an experience you need to have in order to take on the challenge of fulfilling your life purpose. So in this moment, before I go any further, I just want to make certain that if there are any questions, that people feel free to contact me about these questions, because this can start to become confusing. We hear a lot about life lessons and life purpose, and they can be confusing, that I mentioned in one post about life mission. But the idea is this: you're not learning life lessons over and over and over again. You're taking the attributes of a lesson that you learned and bringing it into your next lifetime. And as you do that, as you grow through that attribute, you then serve the life purpose of the life you're living in that next life. So I'm going to just talk about really life purpose for a second, and life lessons, but giving you a few examples of some clients of mine whose life lessons were associated with their life purpose. Oh, by the way, after this segment, stick around, because I'm going to tell you how you can discover perhaps your life lesson without ever having a past life regression. and that'll be in the last segment of our program. We're going to go through what I would say a bit of a worksheet, a workshop, a little bit about how you perhaps discover your life lesson. It's going to be a really cool segment, so stick around for the last part of the show. Okay. Now, I'm going to share with you we call them case studies in the work I do, 3 client stories. And as I do, I will give you a little bit of what they were doing, why they came in. I'll give you about the life they went to, the conflict they had, and the lesson they learned, and the purpose they were serving. So the first story I'm going to share is a young man who came to me much long ago, who was a musician. And he was growing up in a family where being a musician was not a welcomed profession. These were families of doctors and lawyers and high-functioning corporate-type people, people who were high-serving. And he grew up in a family in that way. And he wanted to be a musician. And he was struggling because when he entered into his education, he entered in under a different guise, under the guise of business and being successful through that mode. But he ended up leaving. He ended up failing out. And he ended up journeying, just teaching music to children and trying to find his way. And so he comes to me and he feels very lost because he's not really right now being very accepted by his family. He's struggling. Of course, he doesn't want to disappoint his parents and his peoples. He's a good dude and he really wants to do well in the world, but he feels like a lost soul in the moment. So he goes back to a Native American life. He was a male and he was a Navajo. The name was Yewa. His conflict. See, he was being raised in the hunter sect of his tribe. And very early on in his life, as a child, he went on his first hunt with the hunter sect, with the hunters of the tribe. And he witnessed the killing of an animal, and it shocked him. It disturbed him so much that he closed up inside. He didn't know what to do because he was in such conflict with the idea of killing an animal. And it's not something that was escapable for him because it was a part of his family system's role within the tribe to be a part of the hunters, the hunter sect, he called it. And so, as we move forward through this past life, not only did he struggle and get ostracized by his family, he was raised or being mentored by another member of the tribe. This one was a drummer, a native drummer of the tribe. And this client of mine seemed to have a talent towards native drumming. And he goes further into his life, and he finds himself around a ceremony, native drumming, and truly feeling his peace, truly feeling himself in a fullness that if he had gone and denied himself that journey and stayed within the hunter sect tradition, he would have suffered through the lifetime. So, what was his lesson? To be me in every moment. And the purpose of his lesson, self-value. See, in his present lifetime, he cannot escape the realization that if this is within him, that this is something he seeks to express through him, he must be him in every moment. That native life was to help remind him of such an experience that he's already have conditioned in him, an attribute. See, our attributes, our karma, can be both successful and unsuccessful. We can learn and not learn our lessons through each lifetime. But when we learn them in lifetimes, they become positive attributes that we can use in future lifetimes. When we don't learn them, I'm just going to say, more common than not, they become negative attributes that we are struggling through in our lifetime. So, learn your lesson in your present life, positive attribute for your next life. Don't learn it and have to process it in the afterlife. And when you come into the next life, it's going to likely be a negative attribute that you're going to have to grow through. And this client was very tuned in. He decided to go back to get his graduate work and do his work and through music. I don't know how he's doing, but I hope he stuck along the path. I hope he honored the regression and the lesson of the life and the message it was giving him for the present life. Okay. The next one. The next one's a good one. This is a 56-year-old female who suffered from terrible allergies. She could not get out of her house. She loved nature. And she loved to be in the garden. She lived in the wooded area. And every season she would suffer, and she had to be locked into the home. And she could not get out. And she was a professional person. So she was able to sustain herself, of course, and do her work during all of the time. She had, as long as she doctored herself up tremendously, she was fine. Allergy shots, nothing was really working for this woman. So what happens? She goes back to a past life, and she's a male in that past life. She's a lumberjack in the Northwest. And as a lumberjack in the Northwest, she meets one of the native Hoopa there. And as he does in that lumberjack life, he falls in love with this native woman. And as he falls in love, he's now becoming conflicted, because these people don't want them to tear down their forest. They are trying to oppose them. But the lumberjack industry was much too powerful for these native peoples. And there's nothing they could do. There was no negotiation. And he was very aligned with the lumberjacks when he was out there doing his lumbering. But when he met this native woman and he fell in love, he moved to their side. And when he did, he tried to negotiate. He tried to negotiate on their behalf. And what happened? The ones who were the lumberjacks that he was a part of saw him as a betrayer and ended up killing him in that life. So what happened? The lesson of his life. The lesson was, the conflict. The conflict was, I fell in love with a Native American woman and had to choose. The lesson, to believe in yourself. And the purpose, self-love. Now that's very interesting, because what did it have to do with her allergies? And this is what it has to do with her allergies. Her allergies were all around the fact that when she came into this life, because she carried such guilt, such hardship within her being about how she treated nature, she wanted to make certain she never did harm to nature again. And by doing that, she made certain that she could never leave her house when nature was in full bloom, that she could never do harm again to nature. So when we talk about that lesson, that lifetime, the idea that to believe in yourself, the idea of self-love. So in this way, the way she makes this happen for herself in this life is that she gives forgiveness to her being. She recognizes herself in that life. She recognized the attributes she brought into this life. And she knows and she sends to the realization of her entire psyche that this is not ever the intention, that her intention is like this, to heal the land, never to hurt the land. And through this past life and through this mind setting that she goes to within her psyche, she actually moves into a state of self-love. Because in that state of self-love, she realizes her relationship to nature is a reflection of a deeper relationship she shares with herself. And as she helps nature thrive, she finds herself thriving. It's a way that she gains feedback to her system of self. So in that way, she was able to really overcome the allergy. She still doctored herself up. From my understanding, from the last many years ago I heard, she was doing rather well. And she was able to go out into her gardens and do gardening during the seasons. One more story for you. This story, a 54-year-old female, fear of failing. Now, this is a woman who is involved in the field of medicine. And she goes back into a life, into an Egyptian life, and she's a female. And she's a healer within one of the temples. And she has a conflict, because during the time of when she was a healer, there was a plague, and a lot of people were dying. And as a lot of people were dying, she found that she had this gift, this capacity, something that she discovered as a child in that life, to intuitively know how to bring together elements for healing. But she could not do it. The other healers could not duplicate what she was doing, and she could not save many. She saved the higher factions of people, and a lot of lower factions of people died off. And she just felt terrible. She could not accept the fate of those other people. She could not accept her limitations, that she could not help everybody. And she went into that life, and as she aged, she left that life as a healer in the temple, and she became kind of closed in. She lost her faith in herself, her faith in her life, her faith in her capacity. She couldn't accept that she was capable, that life was bigger around her, and that she was limited in what she could do. She couldn't see the beauty she did perform, and she was too wounded by what she couldn't do. So, the lesson of that life: open my heart, compassion. I could not accept, I could not help everyone. The purpose, you guessed it, self-acceptance. But why? Why in a lifetime this Egyptian healer was open my heart, compassion? Because that was the necessary ingredient for her to heal in that life. She had to open her heart. She had to be in this state of compassion in order to generate the elements and bring them together to create the healing ointment or balm or whatever she was creating for people to be healed through. But now she was bringing it from outside to inside. See, she could not accept limitations. She was very hard on herself in this life. Her fear of failure was all woven into the fact that she doubted that she could ever do that. She couldn't accept that if anyone wasn't being helped by the medicine, that somehow she was failing them, and she was failing herself, and she was tormented by this failure. So what happens? She recognizes that. Even though you're taught the lesson in medical school that of course you can't help everyone. In the field of psychology, we can't help everyone in therapy. We get that. But we do this to help people. We do this because we do want to be of service in our own way, in our own unique possibility to help another. And when we can't, we struggle. And it takes a lot. It takes a lot to let go and to recognize that struggle's here to help us grow, but also that the other, if they have not been helped, then perhaps we were just an aspect, an ingredient into the total recipe and what will truly help them flourish and heal in their life. Sometimes I think I'm that person, and I've realized through the years I am never that person. Healing things as such, they come from you and you as a soul. It's up to you. When you are ready, you will heal, you will resolve, you will grow when you are ready, and you won't do it before then. No matter who you see, no matter who has the expertise to heal you, it will always be your choice. So in relation to these three stories, the story of the young man, the way he heals his life, is he must be authentic to who he is. He must follow the path of his passion and move along, so at one point others will see him as he sees himself. And I tell you this because it's a similar journey that I've been on. I mean, the work I do is pretty fringe. The topics I talk about, pretty far out. But as I do, I get it. As you understand as well. There's one responsibility we have here by being here in these human lifetimes. You must be authentic to who you are and act in genuine accordance with what you know in the moment of what you know, so your knowing can grow. And that's how it works. And he did. And I'd love to hear from him. He's listening. I'd love to know how he's doing. As far as the woman, as far as my client with the allergies, the realization of what we do, how our psyches as souls. I mean, really, to bring this into the psyche that she would be so allergic and would not be able to be healed through traditional means of dealing with allergies, other than medically doctoring herself up, which wiped her out and not able to really be functional as well. How she did it as genius, to be able to indicate to her relationship to herself. It's a marvel that we do this. For now, as she can go out and love nature, it feeds her. It's her form of bringing love back to herself. And the last one, my last client, with the fear of failing. I get it. And again, in the field of medicine, fear of failure. Most of us, we were able to move along with failures and see them as whatever they are and grow from them. But there are others who feel so incredibly anxious from the fear. And fear is something that we all have in our journey, not in every lifetime, but for some it's more dominant than others, pervasive, where it's like you can taste it they can taste it in their experience. And as they are others who cannot understand the depth of fear they feel, even though they seem so incredibly together and successful on the outside, I get it. And in that way, what was that fear generating for? What was it indicating for this client? It was indicating her journey for compassion, recognizing that her relationship to these others can never be absolute. She is not the determiner of their healing. She's a partner to their healing. And when she got this, she was able to bring the realization every time she felt this feeling of failure coming up in her, she'd place her hand over her heart and give herself the compassion, the recognition of what it really means for her, the purpose, self-love. So I just wanted to bring those stories in, these 3 stories. I thought they were very cool. Hopefully they were helpful in helping you understand how we take our life lessons and how they relate to our life purpose. But there's something more, there's something even cooler about that. There's something even more profound. Now, I want to share with you, and if you allow me to, and I'd like you to stick around to listen to this because this is very cool. Now, very much I like to share my journey. Why? Because my journey is very ordinary. Like I say, as souls, we are extraordinary, but as a being in life, I am totally ordinary. So as I say, we're extraordinarily ordinary, but each one unique. And in that journey, I've had a chance to really go through my journey and explore these lifetimes I've lived and the lessons I was learning and how they contributed to a purpose I was on to grow. And so I'm going to share some of that with you now. And as I do, if you're not following along, if you have questions, again, of course, message me, text me, or call. So in this first part, the first lifetime that I had lived, and I talked about it in a prior show, that I seemed to come into a lifetime where I was a member of a family clan, and I ended up leading my family clan. And at the end of that lifetime, I made a bad choice. I did not migrate soon enough as the seasons were changing, and I placed my family in a very bad position. It was during a blizzard, and I had no shelter. I went off trying to find shelter for my little family clan, and I froze to death. And I left that life thinking, I killed them all. And that energy was an imprint in that very first human lifetime. And that's the point of how we begin and discover the purpose of ourself and the role and the life purpose we will then go on. And let me explain what I mean by this. In that very first human lifetime, in that feeling that I killed them all, something else came through me, a variety of experience within me. One is that I cannot be trusted to make choice, especially choice for others. Other aspects of my being that I had total doubt within myself. I thought that others are better off without me, that frankly, isolation became a feature of my being, actually became a journey that was imprinted within me. I felt that others were better alone without me than ever with me. And I went through a series of lifetimes where I was thrust in roles where I was not able to be isolated, and every time I was finding myself in a tragic outcome. So I'm going to share with you some of the attributes I gained to help resolve the issue of that very first human lifetime that I killed them all. That was resolved in my Native American life around the year in the 1800s. This first human life was around the BC times. So the next lifetime that I recall, or at least that I had recorded, was around 1250 BC. And I was male, and I was in a Greek isle, and I don't think we were Greek, but we were ruled by the Greeks. And I had a Greek name sounding like Odysseus. And my conflict, I didn't want to learn. I came into that lifetime where here I am, I'm with my teacher, and my teacher is teaching me all about the stars and pointing up to the sky, and I am bored. I could care less. As a matter of fact, I could care anything about the learning experience whatsoever. So what did I do in that life? I played. And I played and I played and I played. And I just gave up on learning, and I lived a very meager life and a very unfulfilled life. And the lesson of that life, when I died alone, impoverished, not experiencing pleasure whatsoever, and it wasn't a long life, was resistance. The lesson was resistance. That when you resist along the way, if you resist whatever is opportunistic for you, when you resist the path that is that you were invited to take, then you will find negative experience as an outcome. And in that life, I resisted. Again, as for my very first human lifetime, as I journeyed on, I come to this lifetime, and seemingly I was carrying energy about wanting to even be here, to wanting to take a path, to wanting to even do the job, to do the work, to grow. So what do? I learn a lesson of resistance. And I get the imprint of what resistance is and how it impacts me. And resistance led me to tragic outcomes. So what do? I come back again after my Greek life, and now I'm a man in a Roman time. 70 AD. Oh, no, 80 BC. I'm sorry, 80 BC. I'm a male. I'm a Roman Jew. And I have a name, something like Antithechus. I'll try to say that 10 times fast. My conflict, I mistreated my own people. See, I was born a Jew in that life, like I have in this life. And as a Jew, I was raised as a slave. But I had a talent. I was good with horses, and I was good with charioteering. And as I was allowed to race, I became very successful. And I changed my name from a Jewish name to a Roman name. And I became a very successful charioteer in Roman times. And what did I do? I took on Jews as slaves, and I mistreated them. And at some point in my life, later in my years, later in my profession, and I recall it being in my late 30s, around 40 years old, I'm in a chariot race. And I felt so terrible about how I treated people, my own kind, how I just felt so loathsome for myself that I let go of the rein. Now, when you let go of the rein was wrapped around my hand. So when I let go and I fell off this chariot, I got crushed by the wheels of the other chariots and the horses that went over me, and I died in that life. My lesson in that life? Honor. And check this out. I said this. There was a path given in this life, a path to help. It was not honored. Respect for a given course of being. That's what honor is respect for a given course of being. And I did not. And I was learning about the honoring of such a path. So here I am. I'm now veered off from a path. I'm resistant to a path. And now I learn about the honor of path. Now, this is all feeding into self-purpose. These are attributes I'm taking along the way. And I'll talk about my self-purpose at the end of all this the end of this journey that we're going to go on in this very moment. The next life I come into, or at least I recall, it's 70 AD. I'm male, and I'm an Ethiopian male. And I fall in love with someone outside of my own clan. And we are sent away. We are sold off as slaves because what we do is we actually break a social custom, a social rule, really Romeo and Juliet kind of stuff. But it wasn't like we weren't accepted. We were ostracized and sent away into slavery, sold by our own people into slavery to an Arab couple, an elderly Arab couple who treated me and this other person very, very well. And when they died, we got our freedom. And at the end of that life, I can see myself now. I'm a sheep herder in a much more grazy, hilly kind of area around the Arabic region. I have children with the one who I was sent away with. And I die actually in that life with my animals of a heart attack around the mid-50s. The conflict in that life was loving outside of this clan. The lesson was burden. The lesson was hardship. See, the idea was this, that what I was doing actually was working on love. And to express love through restrictions, I discovered, was burdensome. So what did I do? I took into me some sort of experience, a condition, an attribute about an expression, expressing yourself truthfully, authentically, genuinely, and any persecution you may receive from that expression. But what you do is you are honored, generally speaking, at the end of that lifetime, because your life will mimic the outcome of that path you were on. But I didn't have this condition in me. I didn't have that experience within my psyche as a soul as I was journeying through lifetimes. And that the burden of not expressing, the burden of expressing through restriction, is the greatest burden that any of us can carry. And I was taking this in as a quality to that life, as a quality for myself to learn as an attribute for future lifetimes. I then come into to a life 200 AD, and I'm Germanic, and I'm living in a rocky, rough region. My conflict, I'm a young boy living isolated with my family. My father goes off, he never returns, and I'm a young adolescent in this area, bored silly, and I'm invited to go off and fight. But instead, I decide to stay and not leave my mother and be with her until she died. And she died just a few years later on from illness. Now I'm 18. I slaughter all the animals, take what I take, and I go off to the first town I can get to. And as I do, it's the first time away from home. And as I first get into this first town, it's evening, and I'm approached by people in this town, men, a part of the overlord of this town's overseers. One comes up to me, threatens me. He's drunk. He attacks me. I have a small knife. I knife him, and I kill him. Now, in this particular life, I was then brought to the overlord, and when I was in that life, what you do is you take on the role of another that you killed. Now, the overlord had a young daughter. I was a handsome young man. We married. I went through wars for this man. I fought for this man, and I became successful. And that life, the lesson of that life was all about success. But success by making a choice in relation to what it is that is going to bring us to that potential outcome. So that choice I made was to stay with my mother. If I had gone on to fight, I would have been killed. My life would have ended early. Instead, I lived a long life because I made the right choice. But that life for me was all about the success of making the right choice. Because up to that point, I hadn't made the right choices and I hadn't felt that success. Now I have this conditioned within me. In that way, I can then begin to move on and take on other attributes. So I go into another lifetime. And when I go into it, it's around 1454 AD. And I'm in the Balkans region. And I talked about this. This is the life of the young minstrel boy. What I didn't mention of that life, because I talked about him early in the very first program, about the young minstrel boy who was knifed after an affair playing at the overlord's party, being knifed and killed in the end based on lust, based on attraction in a barn. And if this is confusing, go back, you'll hear it in that program. But the point of the story is this, and I apologize if I'm moving along a little quickly. In that life, I did not want to go play for this overlord. I didn't want to do it. It wasn't something I wanted to do. I did it with resistance. And as I did it, I left as quickly as I could, but somebody had followed me, and it led me to that moment of lust, and led me to the moment when I was knifed and died. So, the lesson of that lifetime, the conflict. Well, I died in the moment of lust, but the conflict actually was around me making a choice. I could not fight my father. I could not say no to him. I was trapped. I had to do this, and I did not want to do this. So what happens? The lesson, freedom. I wasn't able to be free, so I didn't reject what I was told to do. I had no freedom of choice. And what I understand and what I got was, I'm given a choice to use my choice freely in this life when I didn't in that life. So what in that life, what was imprinted in me was what it was like not to have choice, not to have the freedom of choice. When the prior lifetime, the life I recall before that, the Germanic life, was successful through choice. But I had to find something else. I had to get to the other side of the equation of choice. I had to lose my freedom to choose. And in doing that, I gained the lesson of what it was like to have that loss of freedom to choose. And only just a few more I'm going to go through as I come up to the present time. I then go to a life in 1530. I'm a male. I'm a Mongolian warrior who doesn't want to fight. In that moment, we have gone through enough land. We have conquered enough land, and I don't want to fight. I'm 18 years old, and I want to be married. I want to get my little piece of land. I want to be with my fiance girlfriend who I want to be a wife. And now I have to go off into war, a battle I don't want to go battling in. So what happens? I die, of course. I die in that battle, and I'm never able to fulfill that life. My conflict? I had no choice but to be in that battle. The lesson. This was really cool. Peace cannot be found in battle. Peace from within. And this had to do with the realization of choice as well. See, in that lifetime of that young serf, I died realizing that I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to have that choice. I didn't have the choice to make, actually, in that lifetime. In this lifetime, I didn't either. But what happened was I had such resistance, such tension. I had no peace within myself. And in doing that, I brought the outcome, a negative outcome to my being. And I wasn't able to fulfill the lesson. So what I learned was that in the outcomes of life, as you're making these choices, when you don't have the choice, you can't control the circumstances around you. That will always provide conflict for you. You will always find a resistance to whatever is around you that is opposing your inner nature, your inner being. At that moment, the only way you bring yourself peace is to realize that the control you have has nothing to do with what's outside of you and everything to do inside of you. So in that life, I've realized that through choice, through this realization, I do bring peace to my being. So how is this growing? Now I'm now it's 1500 and the mid 1500s, and what happens? I move into 1650, a life in 1650 AD. I'm a female, and I'm a Hungarian woman, and we migrate to northern France, around the Champagne region, and I am burnt at the stake as a witch in that life. And I'll tell you right now, it is the funkiest thing. I can still see the torch about to light the kindling. I can see my long dark frock with my white kind of overlay frock. I can still see and feel my hands behind my back. And I say to my mentor who was facilitating at that time, I said, I don't need to be here for this. And there's things we do to protect you in such moments if you're uncomfortable in those moments, if you are passing in a past life. So in that life, he did bring me out of that moment and had me see what was taking place from my poor self in that lifetime. And I saw myself outside the body, and I saw I was an old woman and two other women to my left also being burnt to the stake as a witch. But why? Why was I being burnt to the stake as a witch? Well, my mother taught me herb knowledge. And through herb knowledge, I learned how to heal. But we were rather isolated, once again isolated. But I chose to remain isolated. I was fearful of people. I was fearful of strangers, but I became well known as a healer person, and I would help along the way. But eventually, around the early 1600s, I was accused of being a witch, and I was burned at the stake. So, what was my conflict? I had no choice. Oh, I'm sorry, my conflict? My lesson, my apology. I was learning about my fear. I was learning about fear through isolation. And the interesting thing I said was, fear keeps us from Creator. It's a block. It's a barrier. But in that recognition, what do we mean by fear keeps us from our Creator? From our Creator being, our Creator self, as well as the big Creator, I guess you could say, in that sense of it all, as we are individuated aspects of the Creator's experience. But fear keeps us from our Creator nature. But I had to learn fear. I had to learn the fear of what it felt like so I could feel that fear and take it as an attribute. I moved it through isolation. But I recognize that fear kept me through what? The Creator. But what is the Creator self? The Creator self is the capacity within us that as long as we choose through the venue of our Creator and the radiance through which we make choice, well, in the world of energy, like attracts like. And you will move towards an outcome that will fulfill whatever path you are on. But I didn't have that in me. I needed to know that. I needed to have that realization through fear. And I died tragically in that life. And there's no doubt about it that I've certainly moved along and as I worked through this fear. So the next lifetime I moved through, it's now 1800s, I am in this Native American life. And I have to choose. I am part of the tribal council. I have to help my tribal culture move from the Appalachian area because the settlers are coming in and we're being forced to move out. And I have to make a choice. And the choice was this. Do I base it on fear, resistance? Do I base it on all the attributes that I did not learn in the lifetimes, the negative attributes? Or do I base it on the positive attributes that I brought in through lifetimes as well? The idea of success through choice. And know what? I did make choice. And we did move. We did migrate. And we settled in the Great Lakes region, above northern Minnesota, southern Canada. And we lost people along the way. I didn't die happy in that life. I really didn't. I was actually saddened by all the loss we had. But I was happy that I was able to help my people move and migrate to a place where we could now thrive. So, the lesson of that life. The importance of family. My family needs me. Dig it. From the very first lifetime, when I felt like I wasn't good for anybody, I am not needed. I will bring pain, I will bring harm, and I will bring all those negative experience to all those around me. They're better off without me. They don't need me. Well, in my Native American life, I came full circle, a giant moment of growth, and I realized that my family needed me. So what was I working on? What part of my selfhood was I working through? Well, it was self-acceptance. I was working through the experience of acceptance, that what happened in the first lifetime, all the way through that last lifetime, I do it through the recognition of communing with life. Community, communication, communion. That's how I now take this recognition of self-acceptance and move it into this next series of lifetimes I am going through. I'm not going to talk about these next series of lifetimes because I talked about it a little bit, but it's amazing. It continues. In my life in the early 1900s as John Smith, my life as Michelle, John Smith was late 1800s, early 1900s. My life as Michelle, just very quickly. John Smith. I talked about it in one of my programs, but I was a young man after my native life who grew up in the Ohio Valley region, was disenchanted with the States and life, bored, didn't have a purpose, didn't have a place, didn't have any people, took a job on a transatlantic liner, ended up meeting an older French woman, became a boy toy, ended up going to the brothels in France in the early 1900s while she was asleep and dining in a brothel. In that moment, I was learning a lesson. The lesson was what it was like to live a life without purpose. So, now, what's it all mean? Well, the next lifetime with Michelle. I then come into this next lifetime. I'm raised in a farm in northern New Hampshire, and I eventually run away from home after abuse to go to New York City, become an actress, and ended up becoming a prostitute and dying as a prostitute in a Skid Row motel. My lesson in the life, the conflict I had no love. The lesson was about love. That I did not love myself, and as I didn't, I set up my own death. And the lesson I understood, you can't grow any further than to love yourself. So what it seems to be as a progression, we go through selfhood in this journey, self-acceptance, self-value, self-worth. And we're saying, well, what's the difference between self-value and self-worth? There are distinctions between these two. Self-worth seems to be in relation to the others around you. Self-value seems to be in the relation to others around you. The recognition of your relationship to the larger community and how you see yourself woven into it. Self-worth, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I just confused that. Self-worth is your relation to all those around you and your experience of yourself in relation to, I apologize for that. Self-value is your relation to yourself, how you feel in relation to yourself. And as we move through these aspects of selfhood, self-acceptance, self-worth, self-value, and other aspects, self-determination, self-empowerment, we take on these selfhood journeys through these giant cycles of time, through lifetimes, and we take the attributes of life lessons and we bring them into our next life. You are learning a unique life lesson in this life. For me, it is around communion. My lesson is around community. To bring it all together to that self-expression that I gained from the life of that young Ethiopian slave, the gaining of self-acceptance, and the journey of being so far out on the fringe of the information that I talk about. I know that hopefully this didn't seem too tedious as I went through this. It may have been, but I hope that you will, when you listen, you're starting to gain a relation to this work, a relation to what it is that's going on as far as you as a soul and the journey you are on. I am just another example of what we already are. I am just another example of us on the journey that we all share, doing it uniquely through our own way. Your uniqueness can only be expressed through you. You must be authentic to who you are. You must act in genuine accordance. And you must grow through lessons. And if you don't learn them in the lifetime, then you will learn them after you leave. The ones we learn in lifetime, we seem to take on as positive attributes for the next lifetime. The ones we don't learn, and we have to learn in the interlife, we seem to bring them in as negative attributes. Of course, we'll go much more deeply into all this through many, many, many more shows. But as I continue on and I bring these topics to you, I do this more as an introductory fashion. At some point, we're going to go much more deeply in a future program around life lessons, where I won't be talking about me. I'll be talking about clients who have come to me, who have actually done series of past life regressions with me. What I tell my clients is this, that when you come to me and you're any one moment, any one condition that you're dealing with, that you're having an issue with, that really it seems to be 3 past life regressions, seems to give you the fullness, the holographic whole of understanding necessary for you to go on and resolve or heal or grow through whatever reason, condition, for whatever moment in your life you are in. And that way, I do have my one-session wonders. People come in and they get it all in one session. I got it, I'm good, and I go. I love that. Although for the people who don't, then to me it's like getting the first leg of your stool, the first leg of your table, and all it takes is 3. So in that way, when I talk about life lessons in future shows, I'll bring that aspect in there, what it demonstrates to my clients. But the realization, the recognition is this: you are learning a life lesson in this life, and it is serving your life purpose. My life purpose at this point, it's self-love. That's what journey I am on. Now, granted, we can say we're all on that journey. Aren't we all on the journey of self-love? Yeah, sure, fair enough. But it's not the emphasis of everybody's journey at the same time. Actually, it'd be kind of fun to actually go on to show you how different aspects, different clients on having the same life purpose, self-love, and how they are each doing it uniquely. Ooh, that's a good one. I'll leave that for another show as well. I'll look through my clients' case studies, and I'll certainly bring that further in. It's amazing. It's amazing, the uniqueness, and you will see this uniqueness. What I hope that I shared today, as far as up to this point, is the uniqueness of each life lesson, how it is obtained, how it works as an attribute, how we bring them through lifetimes, how we do not repeat them. That is a myth, a spiritual myth, I guess you could say, but how it all feeds into our life purpose. Okay, it is about almost 8:15. In the next segment of the show, I'm going to talk about how you perhaps can discover your life lesson now without ever having to do a past life regression. Now, I may be setting myself up here because actually, as I do this, as I talk about this, this is all a new formulation. I've worked through the years, and as I have in the past life regression work, I've come to these understandings. And as I've never been big about the workbook type stuff, but there are things that you can identify, and I'm going to help you, I'm going to tell you what they are, so that you perhaps can discover the lesson of the life you're in. So, if you have to go at this point, please know this program is recorded. You can catch it on Facebook at my Facebook page at Jonathan Yorks, MALMFT CHG. Just go there and go to the videos, and you'll see the recording or along the posts. if you want, it's soon enough, and I'll send out a notice when I do. I'll be downloading them on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, and I'll be actually editing out the commercials, so it's much more flowing in that way. I'll also be downloading it on an iTunes or some sort of podcast site as well. If you have any questions, any thoughts, anything that you seek to ask outside of the show, please feel free to contact me. Go to my website, www.jonathanyorks.com or www.mysoulmyself.com. And please, you can all go to my homepage or my contact page, and you can send me a question, or you can ask for some time to speak. I'm more than happy to do it. I offer initial telephone consults for prospective clients. They are complimentary. There is no charge. It's my pleasure to see how I can be helpful if you seek to want to do the work. Okay, this is the Past Life Regression Radio Show. We will be back in 5 minutes. Enjoy the break. Thank you very much.
Aren't you tired of your plain white walls? Do you ever wonder why you feel uninspired at the office or feel like your home lacks character? It's always the same boring walls over and over again. Well, it's time for a change. Visit walldecor3d.com and order wall panels that will turn your walls into beautiful and extravagant looking accent walls. The 3D wall panels give an extra dimension and complement just about any room. Their current selection includes plant fiber wall paneling, MDF wood wall panels, mosaic real wood paneling, and thin slate stone veneer. Remember, that's walldecor3d.com. Order now and add some depth to your life.
When I'm feeling sluggish, I'm not looking for the jittery feeling of coffee. I'm reaching for Neurosonic, the only energy drink I trust to keep me going. Neurosonic is just one of the great drinks in the neurofunctioning beverages line. When I'm stressing an interview, Neuro Bliss keeps me cool, calm, and collected. And when it's time to call it a night, I don't want sleeping pills and all the crazy after effects you hear about. I want Neuro Sleep to help me drift off to dreamland. Neuro drinks are surprisingly low calorie and full of the healthiest and most efficacious vitamins and minerals. Artificial flavors and colors don't work for them, and neither should they for you, so they don't allow them in their drinks. To find a store near you that carries Neuro, go to drinkneuro.com or visit amazon.com to order a 12-pack. Neuro, drink with a purpose.
These are the sounds of someone taking their eyes off the road. Texting while driving is more than distracting. It's dangerous. Do us all a favor. When you're on the road, stay off the phone. A message from CTIA, America's wireless companies, and the National Safety Council.
So who are the real original housewives? Well, Sarah, Esther, Mary, and Ruth. Proclaim this and other Bible references on a shirt at onebodyonespirit.com. One Body, One Spirit is a Christian-themed clothing store for ladies and men that allows believers to express their faith, glorify God, and start conversations through something as simple as a t-shirt. Plus, a portion of every purchase is donated to charities. Their website is onebody, to view their clothing selections. onebodyonespirit.com.
I'm going to the hardware store.
Oh, will you pick up 800 lumen bulbs?
800 more flowers? The neighbors will think we're wacky.
Not flower bulbs, light bulbs.
Come on, Dad. Lumens tell you how bright the bulb is. We can replace our 60-watt bulbs with energy-saving bulbs that give off about 800 lumens.
So, we'll save money.
Right.
Got it. 800 lumens and more savings.
Lumens, the new way to shop for light. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov.
Has your computer seen better days? Is it always freezing and lagging? Are you constantly plagued with pop-ups and viruses? Are you not able to get any work done? You don't need a new computer. You need Phoenix Technology Support. With just one call to Phoenix Technology Support, you will never have to stress over the hassles of taking your computer to a repair shop again. Just leave your computer right where it is and let us come directly to you. Phoenix Technology Support has over 10 years of experience in the industry of customer support and IT solutions, and it's the best place for help with all of your home or business electronics. From gaming systems to tablet setups, smartphones to smart TVs, even business servers and emails. We will help set up or troubleshoot almost any technology in your home or office. So next time you think your technology is at the end of its life, have it rise from the ashes like a phoenix by calling Phoenix Technology Support at 617-658-3240. That's 617-658-3240, or go to www.phoenixtechboston.com.
If you're just hearing about Monk Therapeutic Air for the first time, it's a recyclable diffuser that promotes mood change and life-enhancing effects through our custom blends of essential oils in the ancient practice of aromatherapy. Monk is the simplest aromatherapy device in history. You don't have to know anything about essential oils. We do all that for you. Simply pick the way you want to feel, open your Monk, and breathe in as your Monk diffuses an eclectic blend of essential oils and wild plant extracts. Monk is available in 7 different blends, all of which are organic, natural, and free of nicotine, tobacco, or artificial chemicals. Visit monq.com to learn more.
Have you always wanted to make your own podcast? Or had dreams of becoming the next social media influencer? Don't let office space and equipment be what gets between you and your dreams. New studio space is now available through the Go Network. The Go Network is a multimedia broadcast company that currently hosts live radio shows and podcasts. With microphones to fit all guests, the ability to video record interviews, a stage for band performances, and an editing suite to put your audio and video content to the next level. The Go Network will provide assistance with producing, editing, sponsorship outreach, marketing, and more. You can create the podcast or web series you want with the lower price tag. Visit our studio location in Norwood or our audio suite in Canton. For more information, call us at 857-445-0424 or email us at info@gonet.com. That's info@geauxnet.com.
Are you in need of stickers, be it for personal or business use? Then you need to go to stickeryou.com right now. That's stickeryou.com. Sticker U is passionate about providing you and your business with the highest quality custom stickers, labels, decals, and iron-ons. They can even make you temporary tattoos. If you want to stick out from the competition, then you need Sticker U, as Sticker U provides the best platform in the world to create custom products that make you stick.
I'm Jonathan Yorks, and you're listening to the Past Life Regression Radio Show. Welcome back to the Past Life Regression Radio Show and Spirituality for Souls. We are in the last segment of our show tonight, streaming live here at the Go Network every Wednesday from 7 to 9 p.m. This last segment in today's show is going to be how to discover, perhaps, your life lesson. So up to this point, we were talking about life lessons, and if you're just tuning in, what we're doing with life lessons is helping you understand that lessons are not repeated through lifetime. So what you do through each lifetime, you learn a lesson, whether you learn it in that lifetime or you learn it after you leave the lifetime. It depends upon how you bring it back into the next lifetime or future lifetimes. If you learn it within the lifetime, it comes back as a positive attribute. If you don't learn it and you have to learn it more in the afterlife, you usually bring it back as a negative attribute. So how can you discover your life lesson? Well, it's not too hard to do. The very first thing you have to do is notice your nature. Now, what do I mean by that? I will say this, I'm going to use me as an example once again. My nature is to isolate. I do not like being around crowds. I am very comfortable being on my own. I had an opportunity to live in a mountain cabin when I was in my mid-30s and spend time there through an isolated period where it would snow and I wouldn't be able to have access to anybody with no electricity and really no running water. And I actually gave it to consideration. It was actually appealing to me. And when I struggle, when I'm hurting, or when I'm troubled or stressed, isolation is really what I go through. And it's an attribute. It's a characteristic in this life that I have. It's part of my nature in this life. So what's your nature? The first thing you need to do is notice your nature. And as you do, then you can see how your conditions feed into your nature. Like, what are the conditions that may feed into this life lesson I'm working on? You know, one of my features, I'm kind of in an extroverted life form with an introverted nature. It's very complex because I do like to speak. I do like to share. I do like to hear myself talk. And in doing that kind of sharing, I find that there's a natural extroversion part of me. But through my journey, as I have been in the moment of extroversion, especially when it came to being a part of a community, my voice would be shut down. I talked about that in prior shows. And I would fall back and I would isolate once again. My MO is to isolate. My voice, my being, my person. For the past decade of my life, my office is square, small little office, very pleasant, very comfortable, but a little office that only me and my clients go to. I don't extend this into the outer world. So my conditions, one, my aversion, I go into groups and I find myself looking around more than I do engage until I start to feel comfortable enough to start to engage. My natural tendency was to sit as a wallflower, actually. And yet my life would always seem to be pushing me into more of an exchange with someone, with peoples in a community. And so then I looked at my challenge. Through my conditions, what are the challenges? So I ask you, look at your nature. What is your nature in moments of stress? What is your nature? What do you do? That's the first question. Now, how can you discover this? How you feel. You look at your feeling in those moments. What is the feeling that is creating this aversion within you? This resistance, this exchange you're having that is affecting you in a way that is keeping you from moving forward. So that's first thing, that's what you have to note. The feelings and the thoughts in relation to your nature. This is how you start to expose what is taking place in this life, what is operating underneath all that you have not been aware of or given consideration to. So, how do we discover our nature? We see where our aversions are. We're talking big one. We're talking the existential, the big one. The one that keeps you from fulfilling the life purpose, of course. Not the aversion like, I don't like to go out into the snow. Yeah, I get it, and that may be aversion and maybe past life related, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the aversion in the big picture, the spiritual picture, your existential reason for being here. That's what I'm talking about. So what is your nature? And you notice it through the feelings that arise within you in the moment of when you're having this aversion. And then what you do is you notice the thoughts. Like I said before, feelings are like a suitcase packaged with thoughts. And you note every thought. And you'll find self-statements in there in those thoughts. And as you do, your next moment, again, is to reflect on the conditions. What are these thoughts saying? And what are the conditions of my life that seem to be speaking to this aversion I have? Again, for me, I would express myself and I would be told, listen, it's awesome to hear you, but don't talk anymore. People would look at me and say, this is what you believe, Jonathan. It's fun to listen to, but please, don't talk anymore. And so I would start to pull back and I would find myself moving away. I'm in the fringe as far as the work I do and what I speak about. And because I am, it even creates greater aversion within me to want to talk about it. I generally do it in my room or to my wife, who she's awesome and she listens. And to anybody else who will give me the audience, give me the ear. So in that way, my aversion and the thoughts and the thoughts and feelings in relation to it, to this aversion, this resistance that I have in relation to this, and the conditions in relation to my life that feed into this, and you all have them, we all have them. What I do is I help my clients see these things. And as you start to list these things out, list out your conditions. Note your conditions. Put them on a piece of paper. It's really that simple. Again, start with your nature. What is my nature? Ask that question. And then notice in the moments, the big existential moments, it could be relationships, it could be professional, it could be personal, it could be financial, it could be any aspect. It could be just you looking in the mirror and giving yourself love. Whatever it may be, that you find that you have this aspect of your nature that expresses itself through an experience that challenges you based on a condition. So when you know your nature, this big existential nature, and then you go forward and you look through the feelings that are associated with the aversion and the thoughts that are within these feelings, and then you note all the conditions that operate in your life, then you see the challenges that they create for you in choice you are about to make. And when you do, you discover your life purpose. Now, it's much more complex, certainly, and actually requires you to sit down and write these things out. To write out, what is my nature? So if you would like, in this moment, get a pencil or pen and a piece of paper. Let's discover your life purpose, because I discovered mine along the way. Mine, because I discovered it through my Life Between Lives regression. My life purpose, or my life lesson, my apology. My life lesson, like I mentioned, is around the idea of the word commune. Community, communication, communion. It is not my nature to commune. It is not my nature to want to communicate. Although it's more of an aversion for me. Out into the public, that is. To anybody who may be listening. And for those who are listening, thank you. Thank you for sharing this night with me. It is a wonder to have you here, and I hope that it helps you further gain some sort of sense of deeper relation to your spiritual being and nature as a soul. So, let's start. If you would, get a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen. And the first question, what is my nature? And I want you to note, in this very moment, your aversions. We're talking the big stuff. Spiritual, existential aversion. What is your aversion? Is it in a relationship? Can we find it there? Is it in your thoughts and your self-experience as far as when you comment to yourself? Is it in the job you have? Where is it your aversion comes in? In your life. So and again, we're talking the big one, the one that helps you further advance your being. Unless you move beyond this aversion, you will either maintain where you are or you will slowly go into a decline. Note your aversion. And within each your aversion, as you write down what your aversion is, now think of it. Think of the moment when you had that aversion. You're there. Put yourself in there. The imagery, the smell, the sounds. Place yourself in there now. And as you're feeling the aversion, what is the feeling? What feeling are you having in this moment as you place yourself in this moment of aversion? What feeling is coming forward from you that is making you not want to move forward in this moment? And as you find the feeling within you, open it up and write down the thoughts associated with the feeling. So if the feeling, let's say, like for me, the feeling is a resistant feeling to wanting to express, the aversion of the resistance. So then I have this feeling of resistance in me. And I've had lifetimes of resistance, certainly. We talked about that earlier. But now I open it up. And what is it? What's the package? No, and I hear every negative thought because the feeling isn't a positive feeling. Our aversion feelings are not positive, but they're not meant to be. That's how we grow, and you know that's how we grow. We grow through these conflicts. We grow through dissonance, interresonance. Just the movement of life and being. If you take it with a negative perspective, then you devalue and diminish what it is you can create for yourself in this life. So when we move into the aversions and we unpackage the feeling, my feeling is resistance. I don't want to talk. I don't want to be seen. I don't want to be in front of this camera. I don't want to be in front of this microphone. That's what I hear. Then I say, why? What is it? What's in that suitcase of yours, Jonathan? Well, no one's going to listen. No one cares. No one ever has cared. All these experiences within me. You're not good enough. You're not good enough, huh? No one cares. And and you're not good enough to help them care. You're not capable. You're not all the negatives. You're not intelligent enough. You're not communicative. You can't speak in a way that they're going to hear you. All the not messages. And all related to my little I am self right now. And I hear these. And I can see the self-resistance that's going on within me. And I'm wondering, okay, I see this. This pulls me away from connecting, from being with others. So open your feelings and listen to the thoughts and list all your thoughts. Now, note the conditions of your life, the current state of your life, the place, the people, the purpose in the moment. Note the conditions of your life. And as you do, become aware of how they are in this moment in you now. So what are some of your conditions? Again, you'll discover your conditions. One, they're external, but they're certainly internal. If your condition is to move into sadness, if your condition is to move into doubt, if your condition is to move into diminishment, if your condition is to feel hopeless, whatever conditions of inner conditions you feel, that of course are going to be dissonant. They have to be dissonant because they're part of your aversion, which is within the nature of yourself, comes through in your feelings and your thoughts, that is also based and also worked out within all conditions. By the way, you have positive conditions in the lifetime as well as ones that challenge you. These positive conditions are meant to be reinforcements for you. So note all your conditions, positive and not positive. And then note the challenge. Bring yourself back to that moment of that aversion. That moment was your challenge to act differently. And in doing that, acting differently, when you didn't act differently, what was it? What was it that you were moving away from? What was your aversion about? And as you do, you can start to get a sense of what the lesson of your life is. Now, I don't think I would have come up with communion and community. I certainly would have come up with communication. I guess I can come up with community because I have this aversion to community. So what did I do, being the wise, genuine being that I am? I fell in love with a woman who just brings me into community, brings me into regularness. I'm not on the fringe. I live in a home with my wife and my child in a community of regularness. And it's very cool. And and I have no aversion to being there. I enjoy it. I like swimming in the pool of community in those moments. I'm not enthralled with the mindedness of those communities and things as such, because I do feel different. I do feel other than in that sense of who I am in relation, be able to relate in this way. Imagine going to a party and talking about this stuff. I don't. Not unless somebody is tickled by the thought of the work I do. But even then, I am highly, highly tempered as I talk about my work. I'm always aware of my relation to community around me, how I commune with life, and how I'm communing with you, and how I commune with myself. So in that regard, in just a very simple way, you can start to gain insight into your life lesson. Now, the thing is, once you finish this exercise, and this is kind of a little brief version of it, in sessions, we go much more deeply into it, ask many more questions with my clients. I'm just giving you a very brief format about how to do this. But as you do it, you can list multiple life lessons. You can, again, would I thought of community? No, I would say, well, let's see, communication, community. I would have discovered it along the way as I wrote down what I thought these life lessons were, and I would have seen the theme that is operating through this life. That is the lesson of this life. That is working on my life purpose of self-love. Dig it. So, at this point, I hope that you have been able to gain some insight into your life lessons, knowing once again that your life lesson is an attribute you bring through lifetimes from one life to the next. And as you learn a lesson, be it within a life or in the afterlife, you are utilizing them again as attributes in future lifetimes. We do not repeat lessons. What we do is we take these lessons, and as we work with them as negative attributes in the lifetime, and we grow and transcend these negative attributes, we're able to fulfill the lesson of that life. So the negative attributes within this lifetime of Jonathan, there were, again, from all those lifetimes I've been in, there's something about me still that's working on community. I cycled through my big cycle of life purpose and came to a place of self-acceptance. Didn't come to a place of self-love, though. And so the irony is that through the guise of lust that I brought for me from a medieval life of a young boy being killed in the act of lust, in my last 2 lifetimes that I talked about in a prior show of a man killed in a brothel and a prostitute dying as well around the same ages, that through these acts of lust, I am actually learning about love and self-love. So when I came in to my John Smith life, I had no purpose. When I came into my Michelle life, I had no love. When I came into this life, I had no community. And that's what I am working on, the idea of being in relation to communing with people around me. And as you discover this, as you discover your life lesson, there's only one thing to do, to bring out the positive possibilities within that lesson. That's it. You know, we talk about choice. We talk about free will. And if you think about it, is will actually free? I tell people there's no such thing as free will, only causal will. What does that mean? Causal will. Causal will sets into motion effect. And so when you make a choice, you actually put a thump, a ripple into the quantum field. And it ripples through the field. And as it does, the field can only respond by bringing back to you a reflection of the choice you've made. But not just the choice you've made, the radiance through which you made choice. So when you bring these realizations into your mind and you look at your life lesson, you recognize that in this life, as I am working on this lesson, as this other is challenging me in a way that I cannot deal with. It is too oppositional. I want to shut down and cut off and let go and release and da-da-da-da-da. It doesn't work that way. You can't do it with energies like that. It will stay with you, and you'll be required to grow through these energies. Either you learn the lesson in the present life, or you will have to learn it in the afterlife, and then bring it as a negative attribute into your next life. And by the way, in your present life, okay, sure, I'll deal with it in my next life. Yes, you will. In other words, you don't go anywhere. All you do is change vehicles. The suffering will stay the same, except it gets more enhanced because you're required to listen. And as long as you listen, then the tensions, the stressors, the circumstances that are going to activate you, they will not be so intense. They will not have such energies that you cannot be mindful in the moment. But if you do not pay attention, if you are not willing to learn the lesson you are in, if you are on and grow through this lesson, if you're not willing to look at yourself through this lens, well, you know what happens. Life will get louder. And as you get further off the path, at some point, it's going to have to get so loud, it's going to have to bring you back onto the path. I call that the God smack. I mentioned in another program, you don't want to get God smacked. So whatever challenges you, and the conditions in relation to it, and the thoughts and the feelings and associated, and the version that is within your nature and character, all woven into your life lesson in this moment. And this is something you can know right now without having to do a past life regression. Yet, you want to learn it? Absolutely. Past life regressions, and even more so, moving into afterlife memories. Life between lives regression. I spoke about that on the 3rd show. But I didn't talk about the process much. We will in a future program about life between lives regression, about discovering your life lesson in this life and your life purpose overall through lifetimes on the cycles, the cycle you are in. And it's an incredible wonder, an incredible fascination to discover these things about yourself. So this show is now coming up to the point of about 8:45. And as it is, I'm going to begin to start to wind down with you. And as I wind down with you, the headphones fell. As I wind down with you, I just want to talk a little further about something. See, next week's show Next week's show, I've been giving consideration of what I should do for next week's show. And we haven't had anyone calling in, and I invite people to call in, and I want people to call in. I want people to message, and I want people to text. But mostly I want to have a dialogue with you. I want to have a conversation with you. So next week's show, it's probably to be determined. It's going to be one of two things. Either one, a show of all questions and answers. Basically, it's a call-in show, questions and answers. Ask me any questions about past life, life between lives, anything we've introduced, spirituality of the soul, life lessons, anything whatsoever, or consultation questions. Call me if you have a problem. Give me a shot at this. Let me help you. And you'll see how I do help. You'll see how as you listen to what I have to say, that the words I will speak to you will help orient you, calibrate you, recontextualize what it is you're going through. Because the purpose of this show is to see your life through your spiritual eyes, to understand and process it as a soul in your spiritual life as a human. For you are here to grow, and you are learning a lesson, and you are serving your life purpose, and you are doing with all the participants around you, each one here to be a partner to you as you partner with them, to grow in ways that you couldn't do in isolation, that you could not do without each other, that we can't do, that life cannot do without each other. And in the idea of this show, as I bring up these topics, absolutely there's a lens I look through. Absolutely there's a bias. You are a soul in my eyes, being human. As a matter of fact, to me, you're the mind of your machine. And one day, like I said, we're going to have a program about that. What evidence points to such a consideration? But until that time comes, as you listen to the show, this show's meant to be that spiritual spa, to come in and be reminded. Yes, I'll try to come up with programs, certainly, and at times it may get a little tedious, and I get a sense today's show, it could have gotten a little tedious in the middle, absolutely, as I'm talking about my journey. But if it went past you, listen again, and then listen and you'll see how intelligent it is. I share my journey with you because, again, my journey is common. It's a journey that we are all on. And in that way, I hope through the journey that I am on, that you start becoming intrigued and more curious about the journey that you are on. Folks, this isn't just about life after death. You know, that's the big picture. And like I said in the program, when it comes to spirituality, it's usually through that realization around death that people start to question life, the purpose, the meaning, the relevance, everything around them, the challenges they faced, the angst and the issues and the traumas and the dramas. I get that, absolutely. And we are on that journey. But that journey is all purposeful and meaningful. And this show is to remind you that you are on that journey, that you are a soul in your human life, that you are filtered through the human life you are in, through the conditions of the brain, the neural self, through the body, and through all that is around you, all that you are in relation to. And if you have dissonance, that dissonance is not meant to take you and drive you away from something. That dissonance is not meant to be averted and avoided. That dissonance is meant to be embraced, is meant to be viewed and understood, knowing it has value and meaning for you. So if you're in a fractured relationship, if you're having problems with the external world around you, whatever your problem may be, know that you must within you have the resolution to this issue, this condition. This must be something you must be able to grow through, because otherwise you would have a different condition, a different problem. And when you argue with it, when you fight with it, when you oppose it, then you oppose your own nature, your own choice for being here. For each lesson we learn is chosen by us. Each growth we go through in our purpose, our self-purpose, is chosen by us. We are seeking to know ourselves, so we can grow ourselves. And in doing that, we move through these lifetimes and we take on these lessons with all the characteristics I've talked about. And there's so much more. This rabbit hole goes so very, very deep. As the next show, like I said, I'd like to leave it open for questions and answers. And if not, I don't know. I don't know what I'm bringing up for the next show, but I'll tell you one thing. It's not going to be based on the topics of today. I mean, topics that I've talked about in the spiritual sense. This may be a show about the commentary of the times, seen through spiritual eyes. And I invite those who would want to listen and add to the dialogue to add. I'm not looking for people to agree with me. I'm looking for people to challenge me. Help me see something I can't see, or unless let me help you see something you can't see. I haven't decided yet. If not, then what we'll likely do is just repeat one of the shows from prior. Probably, I think, the past life regression show, since that one will give people a lot of meat, a lot more information. But I'll let you know as far as next show. Following show, after the 31st, the show that is on November 4th or 5th, or around there, 7th. 7th? Really? November 7th. That was Dimitri just shouting out to me. It's going to be all about guides and how we identify our guides and how we connect with our guides, their purpose, their roles, how we meet them, how we grow with them. It's the guide show. And of course, in the end, always how we identify and connect. I think I already mentioned that, but that's what so it's going to be all about guides on the November 7th show. Okay then. Thank you very much for tuning in. You can again catch this recording at on my Facebook page at Jonathan Yorks, MALMFTCHT, a bunch of letters, a bunch of titles that I've garnered over the years. I'll be opening up my YouTube page with the edited version, and also I'll be placing it on a podcast site like an iTunes. Again, I'll be letting you know. If you have any questions whatsoever, please go to my website, jonathanyorks.com, or mysoulmyself.com. Put a www, I think, in front of it. And when you do that, you'll notice you're going to come up to my opening page, which is always a promo for the next radio show. But look up top, you'll see along the links there, you'll see home and about and all that. You can always contact me if you click on the home page. You can contact me if you click on the contact page. I'm more than happy to talk with you and either clarify information that came about on this show. I'm more than happy to spend that kind of time with you. Or if you're seeking consult, if you're looking to come in to do the work for past life regression or a life between lives regression, absolutely give me a call. I'm more than happy to spend the time on the phone. It's a complimentary call. There is no charge whatsoever. The number you can call if you want to reach me is 617-875-6686, or go to my website, or even message me on my Facebook page. All good, all good. So as I say, every Wednesday from 7 to 9 p.m., we are here at the Go Network in Norwood, Massachusetts. I'm Jonathan Yorks. This has been the Past Life Regression Radio Show and Spirituality for Souls. We'll be in touch about next week's show. I look forward to connecting with you once again. Be well.